Well, it's all downhill from that, unfortunately. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to the organizers for having me. It's my honor, really, to be here. It's a great thrill. Such a thrill that I brought my husband and my father, just so you know. And I want to thank my colleagues from the U.S. government who are here. You have with you tonight the dream team of Libya files, people who have worked day and night for this great country. And so thank you all. And of course to the ambassador, what it means to see an official of a government that seems like it won't go away turn and defect and say, no, no, it will go away. Even if I get thrown out of my office, thrown out of my home, it's worth doing that for my country. A great tribute to the ambassador. So the first thing I wanted to say in terms of speaking to you is happy anniversary. Thank you. A year ago yesterday, a group of brave men and women started down a path of no return. They did what some Libyans had tried over the years, and several million surely had dreamed of. They rose up to declare to their leader and their neighbors and the world, enough is enough. Having been reared on repression and harangues, they decided it was worth risking their lives to ensure that their children and grandchildren would not have to be. And the result of their courage and the result of your support is that Libya is free of a dictator and embarked now on a long, difficult, inspiring democratic journey. I've talked to some of you over the months about the pride you feel in this accomplishment. Thanks to your revolution, you've told me, a national identity that once carried the stigma of a madman allows you now to shout your heritage to the heavens. We're from Libya, you say, finally. Suddenly, Libya, which some of you, I gather, used to murmur, I'm from Libya, carries associations not with Gaddafi, but with the remarkable bravery and determination of a people who wanted simply to speak, gather, pray, and live freely. What a difference a year makes. It is a huge honor again for me to be here tonight to help mark your first anniversary. This is your night, and I will not speak long. I'll make just 3 points. First, the Libyan American community should take great pride in what has taken place. As I said to some of you when we met just this past Thursday again, when the lives of your friends and family members hung in the balance, many of you, probably all of you for all I know, dropped what you were doing and worked around the clock to help the cause. You gathered and publicized information on attacks and medical shortages in Misrata, Zintan, Al-Zawiya, you name it. You sent humanitarian aid to refugees and migrants, and you relentlessly advocated on behalf of Libya across your adopted homeland, the United States of America. I've got to say, this is just an aside. I just asked Isam how many Libyan Americans there were probably in the United States, and he said 25 to 30, and I was thinking, 25, wait, million? No, 1,000. You seem like a much bigger community, I can tell you, from the standpoint of one receiving the phone calls and the emails, than 25 to 30,000. And that's a great tribute to you when your people were in need. And I can tell you that your input, and particularly the information that you were getting from Libya itself, was invaluable. It was rigorous, it was constant, and it was professional. And in the end, you played a critical role standing behind and with President Obama in his decision to lead the international intervention that stopped Gaddafi. My second point is that we Americans together here tonight have a great deal to be proud of as well, particularly in the bold leadership of the President and the remarkable bravery and prowess of our men and women in uniform who masterfully executed the life-saving civilian protection mission given to them. Now, I know that President Obama's decision seems really obvious in retrospect, and perhaps to Libyan Americans it seemed very obvious at the time. But it is worth recalling just how much this president put on the line in order to prevent the large-scale killing of Libyans. Remember that what was being considered around the world in March last year was not what happened. It was a no-fly zone, which could have done some good, a little bit of good, but it was President Obama himself, personally, who saw that even if Gaddafi weren't able to fly his planes, his militia and his tanks would still have been able to capture Benghazi and crush the revolution, causing monumental suffering. So it was President Obama who told his staff to go back to the drawing board and plan for an operation that would protect civilians, whether they were being attacked by the air or by the land. And it was he who instructed our top diplomats to build an international coalition, first to support UN Security Council Resolution 1973, one of the toughest resolutions in the history of the United Nations, and then, of course, to participate in the air campaign that helped take away Gaddafi's tools of terror. History shows that there are substantial risks to taking a decision like this, and many unforeseeable downsides. And there were times, maybe some of you remember these times, last summer, when the sniping in this town was deafening. But your president made the decision to intervene not because it was the easy thing to do, but because it was the right thing. And he's a guy who knows what he's doing. Ultimately, the Libyan people prevailed with the support of the United States, our NATO and international partners, and all of you. My third and final point is simply that the same factors that helped bring the end of Gaddafi's rule are those that need to be brought to bear during what is going to be a very challenging transition. And I'll just give you one person's opinion of what a few of those factors are. First, perspective. Today, we all hear the frustrations with the way things are going on the ground in Libya. The political scene is beyond chaotic, and the pace of change is too slow. The economic needs are urgent and immediate, and of course, the level of insecurity and militarization is untenable. But we perhaps focus less than we should on some other things going on in Libya. Utilities being restored, oil production returning to near pre-war levels, free-thinking professors being hired at universities, a free election in the works, and the explosive, unstoppable growth of the critical checks and balances needed in a democracy. Hundreds, if not thousands, of independent media organs and civil society organizations cropping up across Libya. We are all going to need to keep perspective and to remain patient even as we push through these difficult days. The people are another big factor. Libya's greatest natural resource is not what comes out of the ground, but what walks upon it. Libya's people, there and here. The transition is going to need the same ingenuity that found a way to rebuild the internet in Benghazi after Gaddafi shut it down. The same solidarity that last year threw its weight behind an unknown ad hoc political umbrella organization called the NTC, so that it could do Libya's bidding around the world, and the same stubborn will that brought down a dictator and his heavily armed accomplices. The truth is that successful and sustainable democracy depends little on what happens in government buildings. It depends on active citizens, believing in the future enough to build non-governmental checks and balances, investing daily in holding their leaders accountable, and bringing that same spirit of unity and equality that helped Libya prevail last year. Take 3 of Libya's biggest challenges today: education, women's rights, and reconciliation. Libyan parents can play an even more formative role in shaping the next generation than the next education minister, or all of his staff combined. It won't be politicians that will lastingly renegotiate the role of women in Libya's society. It'll be the people, be the men and women of Libya. And achieving reconciliation with those who supported Gaddafi after such pain and suffering is something that government initiatives can try to catalyze, but at the end of the day, forgiveness and healing can only come from the bottom up. And last, partnership, another factor that worked pretty well during the intervention and that we need now. The United States stands ready to partner with the Libyan people. Our priorities, of course, include key security issues such as controlling weapons, integrating militia, securing borders, transitional justice and human rights issues, particularly the treatment of prisoners, which, as many of you know, is a big problem right now, and supporting the election process and pressing forward with political transition. But as you know, the U.S. government's presence in Libya is quite small and will likely remain so for the coming period. That is why it's particularly important for us to take full advantage of other American resources, such as business, educational institutions, and NGOs. It also speaks to why your community can play such an important role. Just as last year you translated Libyan values and longings for an American audience, you can help translate now American values and experiences to a Libyan audience. Your contacts in Libya are way better than ours. You can help identify the most effective actors in the new Libyan government and society. You can volunteer your time and skills. You can start or fund your own NGO. You can attract business back to Libya or build one of your own. And you can provide that steady dose of perspective that I mentioned, both in never giving up on the quest for dignity, freedom, and prosperity, but also by being American, in remembering how far Libya has come in such a short time, how long it will take to build a great democracy. We know that firsthand in this country, and how very worth it that democracy will be. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.